Now, breaking news. ABC News' Brian Ross is reporting Michael Flynn promised full cooperation to the Mueller team and is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. Yes!
It looks like a crime was, in fact, committed involving the Russia investigation, but no, it was not a crime committed by General Michael Flynn.
Lieutenant General Michael Flynn has always been an innocent man. And now it is more clear than ever that a few corrupt, high-ranking, deep state bureaucrats set him up.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Just 4 days after President Trump moved into the Oval Office, FBI agents interviewed then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in the White House about his alleged pre-election contact with Russia. The unsealed FBI documents contain emails from former agent Peter Strzok and attorney Lisa Page discussing that very interview with Flynn. One of the pages is handwritten, sources say by former FBI head of counterintelligence Bill Priestep. Quote, "What's our goal? Truth admission or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired," Priestep apparently wrote. Quote, "If we're seen as playing games, White House will be furious. Protect our institution by not playing games," the note continued. More documents released just a few hours ago show 20 days before Flynn's FBI interview, quote, "No derogatory information was reported back to the FBI about Flynn."
Michael Flynn did not commit a crime, and they knew it. How did they know? Because the FBI had already tapped Michael Flynn's phone, which itself is a shocking outrage, completely unacceptable in a free country.
They had the transcript of the call with Ambassador Kislyak. They knew exactly what was said.
Michael Flynn had a career in intelligence, so he would know, for example, that that the chances are in any country in the world, if you're talking to a foreign official on an open line and so forth, someone's listening, whether it's the government from the other place or ours. So he would have no incentive to lie to agents about anything he said or did.
So it was over. He was in the clear. But it wasn't over. Corrupt FBI official Peter Strzok demanded that the investigation stay open until the Bureau could invent a crime and crush Michael Flynn.
Think about what came out about the lack of exculpatory evidence being put into these FISA requests. That's from the Inspector General. That's a separate issue, but one in which also gives the FBI a black eye. But then you look at these documents. Now, in the writing, in the handwriting, are we getting him to lie so that we can get him fired? That's written down. Now, what wasn't written down?
The White House interview completely ignored protocol, which would normally require informing the White House counsel's office.
So what evolves is they go from a defensive briefing to a perjury trap. And the reason is the perjury trap is what has the chance of getting him removed, whether it's you get a basis to fire him or you have a basis to prosecute him. But they needed him out of there because they thought that the other people, including the president, they'd be able to handle. But Flynn, they understand, he's the national security advisor. He knows how the intelligence system works. He knows how the FBI interacts with it. He's going to find out that we investigated the Trump campaign.
They pretended to believe he was a secret Russian agent, and then they entrapped him on a completely bogus perjury charge. When he resisted, they threatened to hurt his son until he signed a confession. It sounds like something that happens in China. It happened here in the middle of our capital city, Washington. We've known that for a long time. What we didn't know was that there is an extensive written record that proves all of this happened. And in fact, the truth is worse even than we guessed.
What is the Obama administration and its holdover officials, what do they want to do? They want to continue the investigation because the quarry here is not Flynn, it's Trump.
It's how the secret police operate in third world dictatorships. And it's exactly how Peter Strzok operated. And then he lied about it extensively. Listen to Strzok's greasy self-righteousness in congressional testimony 2 years ago.
Not once in my 26 years of defending our nation did my personal opinions impact any official action I took. This is true for the Clinton email investigation, for the investigation into Russian interference, and for every other investigation I've worked on. It is not who I am, and it is not something I would ever do, period. I understand that my sworn testimony will not be enough for some people, After all, Americans are skeptical of anything coming out of Washington. But the fact is, after months of investigations, there's simply no evidence of bias in my professional actions.
What an oleaginous liar. He should be in prison, literally. And in fact, if the FBI treated its own officials the way it treats its political opponents, Peter Strzok would be serving a multi-year sentence for the statement you just saw. Pretty much everything he said in Congress was perjury. It was Strzok who decided that Hillary Clinton's secret email server was merely extremely careless instead of grossly negligent. The distinction was between a crime and not a crime. He let her off the hook. It was Strzok who bragged to his mistress about building a, quote, insurance policy against Trump's election and promising to, quote, stop him, meaning Trump. In January of 2017, it was Strzok who kept the bogus Russia investigation going. Hey, he wrote to a colleague on January 4th, don't close Razor. That was the internal name for the Michael Flynn investigation. That very same day, Strzok sent out a 14-page document about an obscure law called the Logan Act. The Logan Act has been around for 200 years. It bans private citizens from conducting diplomacy with foreign countries. No one in American history has ever been convicted of violating the Logan Act. In fact, the last indictment under the Logan Act was before the Civil War. In fact, the law may be unconstitutional. None of that mattered to Peter Strzok. The Logan Act was the weapon to bash Michael Flynn.
Former FBI Director James Comey made the call to move forward with the interview.
He was the FBI director, and he acted like he was the Attorney General, even the President of the United States. He violated every known rule of the Department of Justice about how an investigator is supposed to conduct himself.
Listen in particular to the Jim Comey interview, where the head of the world's premier law enforcement agency is bragging about what he wanted to get away with.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine two FBI agents ending up in the same room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over. Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible, but I don't know.
Did you tell him that the Steele dossier had been financed by his political opponents?
No, I didn't even think I used the term Steele dossier. I just talked about additional material.
But did he have a right to know that?
That had been financed by his political opponents? I don't know the answer to that. It wasn't necessary for my goal.
It wasn't necessary for my goal.
Flip it around. Let's say that these were FBI agents going to see National Security Advisor Susan Rice and ask her questions in some kind of setup like this. What would be the media coverage of that now if it wasn't a Trump administration National Security Advisor like Michael Flynn?
This isn't about one man. It's about our country. You don't want to live in a society where the most powerful agency in government imprisons people it doesn't like.
The people who are supposed to enforce our laws actually broke them themselves. They abused their most trusted positions to commit criminal offenses against one of the most honorable men the country has ever seen.
That is horrifying. People come to this country to escape it, but it happened. And if it can happen to a three-star general serving as the national security advisor, it could definitely, without question, happen to you.
Look at his FBI. McCabe, Strzok, Comey, Baker, Page. Jim Comey, I got the title for his next book, How My Arrogance Ruined the Reputation of the World's Premier Law Enforcement Agency. That's your next title. It's long, but the book is long. But that's the next book he ought to write. Not one about honor and integrity, how his own arrogance and hubris wrecked the FBI.
These were dirty, filthy cops at the top of the FBI.
This is wide and it is deep. It involves multiple federal agencies, multiple people at each of the federal agencies, all the way up to the White House.
I don't think we have seen the beginning of the reality of what was going on in this faux investigation from the top to bottom.
This was an investigation launched by the FBI without a legal basis and then later used to sabotage the Trump presidency. So the following federal criminal statutes would be in play: obstruction of justice, perjury, fraud, a conspiracy to commit fraud, and deprivation of rights under color of law, otherwise known as abuse of power.
We need a justice system that everyone has confidence in, whether it's a three-star general or a black jogger in Georgia.
You see this split along party lines where the left is pointing to Bill Barr and saying he's overshooting and politicizing the DOJ. Barr is very matter of fact, saying once he saw the facts and all of the tactics used by the FBI and the legal problems around this, it was an easy call.
A crime cannot be established here. They did not have a basis for a counterintelligence investigation against Flynn at that stage. I want to make sure that we restore confidence in the system. There's only one standard of justice.
He was targeted by the Obama administration, and he was targeted in order to try and take down a president. And what they've done is a disgrace.
It was the Obama FBI that was spying on the Trump campaign. It was the Obama FBI that was spying on Carter Page. It was the Obama FBI that went after Michael Flynn. It was the Obama FBI that hid exculpatory information about Michael Flynn. It was the Obama FBI that lied to the FISA court. It was the Obama FBI that conspired to trigger the 25th Amendment against the President of the United States. It was the Obama FBI that was leaking. This is a massive cover-up of the greatest scandal in American history. We expect, and we don't like it, when the Russians interfere with our elections, or the Chinese, or the Iranians, or the North Koreans. They're the enemy, and they ought to pay for it. But we don't expect the Obama administration and the Democrats to interfere with our election, to send spies into the opposition party's campaign, to lie to a federal court, to fix evidence, and to try and use the 25th Amendment to take a president of the United States out. That's why I've been calling this all along a silent coup.
I hope a lot of people are going to pay a big price because they're dishonest, crooked people. They're scum, and I say it a lot. They're scum. They're human scum. This should never have happened in this country. The Obama administration, Justice Department, was a disgrace, and they got caught. They got caught. Very dishonest people.
So we almost didn't find out what really happened in this case. Michael Flynn almost went to prison. And that gets to the nub of all of this, the most important question of all. How often does the FBI set people up? How many other lives have they destroyed without the public knowing about it? In other words, this isn't about Michael Flynn, it's about you.